Hello, everybody, and welcome to Just for Women Africa. My name is Olalekan Amusa, and today on the show we have with us Dr. Laryea on a Zoom call all the way from Brooklyn, United States. Dr. Laryea is the founder of Kelewele, and she also happens to be a senior associate at JP Morgan. And today on the show she'll be talking to us about Kelewele, how she got started, and what's her plans for the future. Yeah, welcome to the show, Dr. Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good. All right, before we get into what Kelewele does, could you just give us a brief profile about yourself?
Sure. So I am a double doctorate. I completed my doctoral studies at Yale University in Anthropology and African American Studies. I study all things related to Black capitalism and Black participation in capitalist economies. As you mentioned, I'm the founder of Kelewele, a plantain-based food startup based here in Brooklyn, but also has plans for international expansion. And I'm also a senior associate working in the racial equity investment space at JP Morgan Chase.
Okay, Dr. Rachel. Could you tell us about Kelewele? Why did you decide to start Kelewele? I'm here in Ghana, and I know that Kelewele means basically fried plantain. So what exactly do you do?
Yeah, so when people ask me that question of why Kelewele or how I got started, I have to tell you my plantain love story. And so being the child of two Ghanaians born and raised in Ghana, but being a hyphenated American as a first generation American, I had a very Ghanaian cultural upbringing in an American context. And so at home, my mom would always make sure to make me all the different Ghanaian dishes, and Kelewele was my favorite dish out of anything she would make. And so it started very cultural for me growing up. And then over the years, plantains, as a kind of African superfood, meant different things to me over time. They're really accessible and affordable. They became a very good dairy and meat substitute as I transitioned into a plant-based lifestyle. And then lastly, in my training as a cultural anthropologist, I love that you could use food as a lens into thinking about culture. And I can be from West Africa, then the next person can be from the Caribbean, and the next person from Latin America, but we all have this shared familiarity with plantains. And I love that as a point of connection, to treat food as a way to connect people across different cultures, but still rooted within the African diaspora. And so for all of those reasons, over the stretch of my life, I launched Kelewele in 2018, really as an invitation for connection, but centering plantains in this really kind of funky, innovative, and creative way to produce foods that are plantain-based. So think plantain ice cream, cookies, brownies, but are also plant-based as well. And so I really wanted to highlight healthy eating in ways that are culturally familiar, but still different in the ways that I was using the plantain to produce new products for people.
Okay, that's nice. Just out of curiosity, Kelewele, how are you able to get hold of plantain in the United States? Do you get to import them in from Africa or from Ghana or Nigeria?
So they're currently imported in from Latin America, wholesale. And so that's been the process. But something I would love to do is, if you think about African countries, and a number of them are kind of in the top 10 in terms of production of plantains in their own countries. But then also when you think about it from an African continent perspective as well. And so, I see so much promise and opportunity for plantains to come out of the African continent as a major exporting item. But currently, especially within the US network, you see most of them coming from Latin America.
Okay. All right. So from Latin America, that would make it much more closer to America than having to bring it all the way from Africa. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so for our viewers who are watching, I'm sure pictures will be on the screen so they can have a view of what a plantain looks like. But how do you go around making Kelewele? What is your secret recipe?
Oh, I can't give you my secret sauce. But I think generally, when you have Kelewele in the streets of Accra, or if you're making it at home, kind of a basic recipe is you have your ripe plantains, you have some pepper, you have some ginger, a little bit of salt, maybe a little bit of nutmeg, a little bit of cumin perhaps, and you mix it all together and then you fry it to golden perfection. And I typically like to eat it with groundnuts, and for those who are unfamiliar with groundnuts, similar to peanuts, and it's a perfect dish.
Okay, that's lovely. I'm already salivating. I need to give myself some kelewele. All right. Okay. So, what other recipes do you make with plantain?
Yeah, I will tell you. I have, you name it, I've made it over the years. At this point, though, within the business, we've really refined our offerings to really speak to what the customer favorites are. And so I always say Kelewele for us, our sweet spot are our sweets. And so if you go on our website, you'll see our offerings are really our desserts. And so we've got our cookies, our brownies, our brownie mix, which is also not just plant-based, but also gluten-free. For folks who are in New York City, where we do a number of events, we always really showcase our plantain ice cream, which comes in a lot of different flavors. And so we're always leading with our best-selling products, which is our baked goods and our sweets.
Okay, that's nice to know. So out of all the products which you sell, which is your best seller?
I would say our plantain ice cream.
Wow. How do you go around making a plantain ice cream? I'm really curious.
Definitely can't tell you that one. Yeah, and what's interesting is it took me about a year to perfect that recipe because, oftentimes vegan food, plantain or plant-based food rather, you have to work harder at making it taste as delicious as foods that have dairy or have meat in them because you'll oftentimes run up against a texture issue. And so if you're comparing vegan ice cream to non-vegan ice cream or dairy-based ice cream, you'll find that, the fats that are in a dairy-based ice cream is what tends to make that ice cream really rich and have that kind of really robust texture to it. Which is oftentimes missing in vegan ice creams. And so you have to, add things or subtract certain things in order to kind of mimic that taste and texture that you would get in a dairy-based ice cream. So it took me a long time to perfect it. So it's certainly my favorite product. And I think because it was such a labor of love and longer in process than the other items, people also really love it. It's just really innovative because, as I mentioned, we use plantain as the base to create the ice cream base mix, but then we create all different kinds of flavors. And I'll give you one example, like our liquid gold turmeric ice cream. And so that's really popular. People also really like our moringa chocolate chip ice cream. We do a really fun vanilla ginger ice cream, which pairs really well with our Kelewele. And so, yeah, I think people just really have dug into the creativity around what we do, but centered on what's culturally familiar to them.
Wow, I can't wait to taste Kelewele ice cream. I mean, wow, Kelewele ice cream. Okay, let's move away from Kelewele as a business. What is it like actually doing business as a woman in the United States?
That's a great question. I think actually we're at a time and an inflection point within the country where there seems to be more engagement and more attention to really supporting not just women, but women of color entrepreneurs. And so you see it both within major corporations that are, giving funding, grant funding, different resources or programs really aimed at supporting female entrepreneurs. That hasn't always been the case. And so I think we're just in a moment of moral reckoning in this country of how corporations, bodies of groups of people, and just individuals at the kind of personal level are having this kind of moral reckoning of how we can collectively show up in different ways for people of color. And that certainly has had its effect within the entrepreneurial space. And so I'll say in my time in running Kelewele, I've actually felt quite supported in terms of the resources I've been able to access for my business, the corporations that have supported me, and given me opportunities to, advance and scale my business as well.
Okay. As a business, do you have challenges scaling up your business?
Oh, for sure. For sure. And so it's, I answered that last question in saying that, yes, there's a lot of resources, but it's still difficult, as a solo founder. So much of the responsibility lies on you, even when you're able to build a support system. And so, I wear many hats, as you mentioned in my intro. And so I'm definitely at a point right now where it's difficult to manage all that I do and still give proper attention to the business and scale it. And thinking about strategy and how you do this effectively, because I think what really makes the difference in scaling a business and doing it effectively and quickly is capital, and having lots of capital resources to make that happen. And, I'll tell you that, I don't come from money, and so I self-fund my business to a large degree. And so when you operate under that model, you can't have that many moments of failure. You have to be very strategic in how you scale your business and try to do it as quickly and successfully as possible. And so, yeah, there's definitely challenges. I think also when you're running a business, you just don't know what you don't know. And it requires a lot of kind of getting people around you who do know, who've gone through it, who can, advise you and mentor you. So again, you are setting yourself up for success as much as possible and minimizing the amount of times you might fail or run into challenges. And so, yes, I experienced my fair share of challenges. It is not easy, the life of an entrepreneur, but they're the moments that make it well worth it, and the kind of longer vision of what the business can be that keep me going.
Okay. I interview a lot of women in business, and one of the issues that keep on coming up, or women keep on saying, is that when it comes to getting resources, to scale up the business, investors prefer giving it to men than to women. Are you in that same category? Do you face that same challenge that, when investors approach you, they prefer it to be a man than to a woman?
I can't say that I've experienced that personally, because for me, I've been very intentional about where I get my funding from. And so I've always, I've always really leveraged non-diluted funding, or I aim to get grants or, corporate philanthropic dollars, rather than going for, say, venture capital or debt or equity. And I will say, I think generally across the board, the research shows that, these investment bodies tend to invest in men at a larger percentage than they do women. That's absolutely the case. But for me, given just the strategy of my business and the model that I'm pursuing, I haven't sought out VC or debt or equity from folks. And so that hasn't been my experience yet. Should that day come when I seek that kind of funding, I imagine that I will experience similar experiences as the stories of the other women you've interviewed, because there is a lack of equity in the gender space when it comes to investing in entrepreneurs, for sure.
Okay. Well said, Dr. Rachel. Okay. What do you think can be done to break that bias so that when investors approach a woman in business, they are more likely to give her than a woman? What do you think can be done to break that bias?
Well, I think it's a paradigm shift. I think it's understanding what about gender differences, what about investing in a female entrepreneur seems like it won't produce a return on investment. I think when investors are able to really be honest and answer that question, then we're able to really see the bias that comes about and then address it. Because I think for some, or the answers to that question are varied, right? It could be, perhaps women are less committed because they might pursue having a family at some point, and then the business will go to the back burner. Or maybe the thought is women aren't as hungry, or maybe as, and I'm making all of this up, by the way, because I think we all know that women are the best entrepreneurs. But It could be the thought that women aren't as kind of hungry or direct or have that kind of tenacity that a man would have in business. These are all ludicrous ideas. But once we get to the source of what these biases are, and the evidence speaks for itself. We have so many examples of thriving, successful female entrepreneurs who exist outside of the scope of these biases that people have about the expansive nature of what a female entrepreneur can do. We know these aren't true, these biases, because of the evidence that we have, but I think it's just a matter of being honest about what we think the lack is for female entrepreneurs, for people who don't invest in female entrepreneurs, and then counteract that.
Okay, well said. Okay, running your own business over the last couple of years, what have you learned as an entrepreneur so far?
Oof. I've had so many learnings, Lacan, so many. I think the most important one has been to really create a community. Like I mentioned, entrepreneurship can be a very lonely journey, especially when you're a solo founder. And there have been several moments for me where I've wanted to quit, where I've thought, you know what, I'm done. I'm hanging up my shoes. Like, it's just, this isn't for me. But what's always kept me going is my community of people that support me, who show up for me, and really inspire me to keep going. And I think that's what's really made the difference, because sometimes, as an entrepreneur, you have your vision and you have all of these challenges that get in the way of your vision. And it can be so frustrating and debilitating in ways, but then when you have people around you who can remind you of your vision and get you reignited about it, you keep going. You take another step further and another step further. And then, you have those moments where you look back and you see how far you've come, and it's really been about the people who've been on the journey with you as well. And so, yeah, I would say that's been the biggest learning, to just always be in community with people, because that's what really keeps you moving forward.
Okay, I do agree, being in community with people. Okay, we're about to bring the interview to a close. I have 3 more questions for you, then we'll bring the interview to a close. What's your idea? What would you say makes a woman successful? There's a definition out there that says a successful woman is somebody who's able to balance her home, social life, and other parts of her life on an equal basis. Do you agree with that definition? Or you think a successful woman basically is based on how much is in her bank account?
Oh, absolutely not. I don't value success on material terms. I think success is so individual. It'd be hard for me to create a generalized definition of what success for a woman is. I think success should be for anybody, but especially for women when we come up against gender inequity, to live out your vision and to do it unapologetically, and to do it confidently in who you are, what you aim to do in this world, what your contribution is to this world, and to pursue that. I think if you can look at yourself at night and know that you've given the world who you are in your purpose and what you intend for your life, then you've been successful in whatever way that means for you individually.
I really love what you just said. That's really nice. Okay. What's the future for Kelewele?
Great question. So in the US context, definitely working right now on consumer packaged goods and bringing the business to retail in a meaningful way. And so hopefully you'll see our plantain ice cream on grocery shelves soon to come. But something that I'm also really invested in is bringing the business back to its roots in Ghana. Since 2019, I've come and I've vended at Afrochella. I've done a number of different events in Accra, but what I'm really wanting to do is, and part of why I was in Ghana earlier this year, was to source farmland, to build plantain farms, and really create a sustainable agricultural ecosystem where we are, developing the plantains from the earth. We have a manufacturing facility on site, and also producing a kind of wholesale distribution model, and eventually a consumer packaged goods model as well in the Ghanaian market. And so those are the blue skies for Kelewele. So much to come, but definitely transatlantic, international in this approach. We talked about plantain importing and exporting, and so definitely wanting to get into that space as well as we, build these plantain farms from the ground up.
That's nice. I really look forward to that. And you having your farm and Kelewele being known all over the world, all over Africa, in every store, and of course that ice cream I can't wait to taste.
For sure.
All right. Okay. So for viewers who are watching, who love the interview, who love the pictures, who love the Kelewele, and would love to get a hold of it out there in the United States, in Brooklyn and all over America, could you give out your contact details?
Sure. So the best way to keep up with all the things that we're doing in real time is to follow us on social media, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram. Our handle is just Kelewele NYC, KELEWELE NYC. You can check out our website, www.kelewelenyc.com. And on our website, you can see our offerings for nationwide shipping as well as catering if you are local to New York City. And then you can also find a link to our cookbook, which is called A Plantain Love Story. And that's available in North America, South America, and a couple of other regions globally. And so those would be the best ways to stay in touch. And then also via the website, you can get access to our email just to contact us with your questions or inquiries that you might have.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Rachel Lai, for joining us on the show. We really appreciate it. We look forward to interviewing again in future. I mean, as your business grows and you expand, definitely Just for Women Africa will be here for you. And viewers who are watching, thanks for watching. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button, leave a like, tell a friend who knows a friend about Just for Women Africa. Until the next show from Dr. Rachel Lai and I, it will be bye.
Bye. Thanks so much.